Okay, we're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling to order the Solid Waste Committee meeting for today, Thursday, July 18th, 2024. Will the council members please identify yourselves?
Councillor Mickey Varney.
Councillor Deanna Glenn.
Myself, Councillor Nishioka. And would the staff please introduce themselves?
Hi, I'm Nitin Joshi. I'm the Environmental and Operations Technology Manager with Public Works.
Thank you.
I am Shana Thomas. I'm the admin analyst.
Juliana Douglas, Financial Plan Manager.
Caroline Block, Budget Manager.
Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer.
And Ryan Zink, Franchise Administrator.
Great, thank you very much. I would like to hear a motion for the minutes from last meeting, June 13th.
So moved.
Second.
Great, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thanks. And now we are ready for public comment. Wonderful. So today we have,
I was just gonna say, looks like,
we have some more people.
did you want to sign up for public comment?
Would you like to sign up for public comment, or are you joining us?
No
I
pressure.
just have a very brief comment.
Okay, wonderful. If you would be kind enough to add your name to the list. Thank you, Jim. And as a reminder, for comments, you get 3 minutes, and we'll let you know if you're getting close.
So go. Jim Shepke, I live in Ward 2, and I'm here representing 350 Salem and the Clean Air Now Coalition that 350 Salem is part of. There's so much happening on the solid waste front that I could talk about. The proposed expansion of Coffin Butte, the fact that ReWorld only signed a 6-month renewal of their contract, and they are not complying with Senate Bill 488. I'm sorry to say, which they're supposed to monitor their toxins. But I'm not going to talk any more about that. I wanted to comment on 2 things on your agenda about the Coffin Butte debrief. I have a comment about that. You may not know this, but I wanted to let you know that there is an EPA investigation of Coffin Butte underway with probable enforcement. And we learned about this from Senator Merkley. He met with the EPA administrator, and that's what we understand is happening. So I wanted you to know that. The second thing, and that's about methane leaks. And then I just wanted to comment, I'm really glad you're gonna get a presentation on leachate. That's terrific. I was gonna comment that in addition to the leachate that Salem puts into the Willamette River, that Corvallis also puts in 32 million gallons a year, they did last year, of leachate into the Willamette. That's about 15 to 20 trucks a day that go from Coffin Butte to their wastewater treatment system, and that's a lot. And I think about those Iron men and women swimming in the lake. And whether they know that that's what's happening. So those are all real downer things, and I wanted to end on an upbeat, so I've got a handout of something really cool that's happening in Corvallis that you should know about. And that is that that they are considering an ordinance to have their restaurants and grocery stores sort and compost all their food waste. And so it's having a public hearing, and Beyond Toxics, this is for Beyond Toxics, about getting people to the work session. And if they pass this ordinance, I hope it's something that this committee will look at.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Is this an
And you
extra?
met your time.
Is this an extra?
I think so, but
Yeah.
I do apologize, I had to take that call, so, but I will listen to your comments
That's
later.
He left us this, so.
Okay.
Julie.
You know, I don't really need to comment, I just,
Signed in.
I just signed in, so we're just here to answer questions and do what we can.
Is that same true? All right, good. Lori, would you like to come up? And because I can't read your writing, would you please provide us with your full name and what ward or,
Lori Doherty, Doughy.
all right.
And I live in Ward 1. I live in a small apartment building and they provide, the water, sewer, and garbage. And we have like a recycling bin and trash dumpster. But I would really, really like to see an ability to, have some place to collect compostable material. And that would be a really great thing for multifamily, housing, apartments and condos that don't have an individual, garbage service.
Great, thank you. We are
Right.
working on that, and that's something I just also mentioned to our Salem Housing Authority, because they're working on, in their sites, they have, they've just begun recycling, and so I've asked them to see if they could also provide the food waste and the green bin, so.
Yeah, that's great, yeah. I try not to waste food, but I do peel veggies, things like that.
Of course.
Yeah, I'd like to be able to have that opportunity.
All right, well, thank you for coming. All right, well, that looks like it completes public comment, so we will move on to action items, which there are none. And now I get to pass it off to Ryan for the management updates and information items.
Thank you, Chair. So we're going to start off kind of continuing the theme again of getting to know your solid waste system, infrastructure, and partners. I've invited, well, actually, I apologize. I almost skipped. So after our tour of the Coffin Butte landfill and the Pacific Regional Compost Facility down in just north of Corvallis last month, the members of the committee asked for kind of an opportunity to just chat and debrief. We were in two different vehicles, and so there might have been some questions that were talked about in one that weren't in others, and so wanted to just for a little bit kind of open the floor to the members to ask some additional questions, that debrief. And we do have some folks, Julie and Brock from Public Services, that I am sure would be happy to answer any further questions or clarify or that sort of thing as we go through that. So I'm gonna pass it back to you.
Thank you, Ryan. I think that a fair amount of the questions or discussions that we had in our van, they were answered pretty well I was in a van with Mark and Ryan. It looks like Mickey is looking at
I'm
some
looking at my
questions.
notes, I think just while you're.
I can always trust Mickey to have preparation of questions. So is there anything you want to ask? Or are you still looking?
Well, I'm still looking, but after Jim's comment about leachate, I was wondering, we saw the big ponds that the leachate goes into, about how much time does it spend in there? I mean, does it take for it to kind of get, what does it do there?
So, yeah, absolutely. We have those two ponds, right? And we have pumps that are pumping into it constantly.
Right.
So, it's pretty difficult to say how long, 1 gallon
sure.
thing is in there.
Uh-huh.
But the truth is, we were constantly circulating it, running trucks to the treatment plants and stuff. So, try to keep the levels down as much as we can. But like I said, it's pretty difficult to say how long it stays in there.
Sure. And then how, at the treatment plants, what's the process?
So the truck pulls into the treatment plant, they offload the tanker truck, which is, 5,000 to 7,000 gallons. And honestly, they run it through their process. I've never been through their process to see what they do. But, just from what I'm told with the Corvallis side anyway, it regulates it by the flow of the river and stuff like that. So how they treat it, I'm not exactly sure, but I wish Ian, our environmental engineer, was here because he'd probably have a better answer than that, but I can talk to him.
Okay,
and try and get some answers on that.
well, I'm kind of curious about what gets removed and then testing before it gets released, like testing for
So if I may-
PFAS and stuff. Huh?
Immediately following this conversation will be a presentation from the TIN that will likely go through a lot of our
A lot of
process
this.
here for sale.
Okay, that works for
Yeah,
me.
so I tried to put those together so we can
No,
do that right afterwards.
that'll work,
That's
that'll
perfect.
be.
That's a great
If I could
segue.
just nitpick a little bit here, when we talk about leachate being pumped into the river, it really is treated leachate, treated liquid material, so it isn't as if it were raw leachate coming in.
I think
I
we'll
can
hear
get
about that
it.
soon,
We'll
but
hear about
we'll
yeah.
continue to see. Do you have, are you still looking? Should I, Deanna, do you have any questions
I
for
don't.
anyone? All right.
No, it was just more comments, market for excess methane. No, anyway, we talked about that a little bit. Vehicles. No, I don't really have any questions. I learned a lot and really enjoyed it.
No, we did learn.
Learned a lot.
Well, if I can say one thing, if we don't get the questions answered today, what would be the best way for me to reach out?
Okay, send the information to Ryan. Ryan will distribute it to us. So
Perfect,
yeah.
that way you don't have to try to have a long list of emails to do, so,
Okay,
all right?
works.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over to Nitin.
Try to set this up quickly.
And so we have the printout here as well, is that
Yep.
correct?
That's right.
If you want this printout, it's here too.
All right, well, let me introduce myself. I'm Nitin Joshi. I'm the Public Works Environmental and Operations Technology Manager. I've been with the city for 22 years, so holding quite a different, job titles and positions. But at the same time, I've been involved in quite a few of these pieces of what you're going to hear today. And so I guess I might probably be the most historian, considered myself a historian for what you're about to hear. So Mark's here in the room. Mark's my boss, my manager. And so he is definitely interested in seeing how well I do.
He's up for his annual performance appraisal.
There you go.
And as chair, I neglected, when Mark came in, I neglected to announce that Mark Bechtel had entered, so.
Thank you. So before we, dive into what the city's waste processing facility is, I wanted to make sure that everyone understood exactly what is it that we are. I can actually start my video too, so people know how I look and even at work. Anyway, just to give you an idea that what is involved, why did we go this route? There are some federal requirements regarding our pre-treatment that basically when we take septic waste, we have to make sure we issue permits, we track that it's a requirement under our pre-treatment industrial, the pre-treatment program, which is a federally mandated program. And then if you are going to accept leachate, you also have to make sure it's another one of those permits that have to be issued. We need to track it, we need to quantify it, we need to have a proper process for it. So, and also we need to inform DEQ as to where it's going in the system. All those things have to happen. So that's all approved and by DEQ.
So if we didn't take it, where would it go?
Oh, we'll come to that very soon. So, yeah.
You're all right.
And then, there were other things that we had to, we were also thinking about as we were thinking through this. And so I'm going to talk about street sweeping waste. I'm going to talk about vac truck waste, some, waste remaining from our, after leaf haul has been completed, which goes to the compost, piles. And then we do have snow and ice at times, and then you always need a place for things to, eventually go. When they are, when you take the snow and ice out of downtown, where will it go? Not bush park. So we needed to think about that. So that was the premise behind when we started down. But let me let me give you a background as to why we needed a new septic location. The fact is that in the past, we used to accept septic waste all the way back to the 80s. As far as I am aware of, that we have been accepting septic is basically all those people who are on septic system or porta potties or best part kind of things. Everything of that which is not connected to the city's sanitary sewer system, and which is in the county, which is in the neighboring communities, all that waste has to go somewhere. Regularly, your septic tank gets pumped. So where would that go? That needs to go to a wastewater treatment plant. And so all the communities which have wastewater treatment plants do provide that service to the neighboring, what can you say, rural areas where people have homes and communities which are small that cannot afford treatment plants. So we are one of those, and we have been since the 80s. Unfortunately, the place which we used to have, where we used to accept waste, while that was back in the time state of art, it was really not the ideal location, given the fact it was in a very congested small area within the shops complex that they had to, as the trucks continued to get bigger, they had to make these weird turns and one-way routes around people and parking lot. And then to add to that, as you can see, the middle photo is a very telling photo. We literally were the equipment was starting to dissolve in the juices. So the grates, as you can see, are completely, they're metal grates and they're completely dissolved. So also to add to that, there was lots of maintenance activity that had to be done with rags, and all kinds of things come from septic and get stuck in the equipment. And then somebody had to go out there and pull those rags out, and that was a job for environmental services. And so it wasn't a happy, whose turn is it to do that today. And then to add to that, there are quite a few offices in this area, because as you remember, Shops Complex, the old one, is right across the street from the new operations center. So all those offices, all through summer, they would start wondering what's that bad smell coming. And then as a joke, we would say like, well, that's the smell of money, but you can only crack that joke only so many times before it's not funny anymore. And the fact is that we knew that we were causing problems to the real estate offices, to other folks who were trying to just do the regular business with the waste and the smell that we were causing over there. So there had to be something done about that. And then the other part was the street sweeping pile. Since 2006, we have been taking we have been using a contractor. Actually, before that, let me tell you the middle photo is what the piles look like way back when. You see all the garbage in the front, pieces of garbage all over in the front. That gets picked up with our sweeper. All the catch basin waste, everything that gets brought in used to be in the pile. And then we would test it. Then we would have a contractor come in and screen the whole thing. That's the left photo on the top. And after screening all of that, we would test it for metals. And then we would use it for either covering cannon ponds, which is another one of those subjects that we'll talk someday. It's the landfill at the airport, which we have been filling. Those are ponds from the past, which we have been filling for years together. And they're coming close to a closure point. But we have filled them with everything, which was permitted by DEQ. But DEQ decided in 2016 that was it. You're not going to use any of that, street sweeping material to use that as a cover for there. Not only that, you're going to actually send all of this to the landfill. So with that came the cost of actually, as you remember, when we went to Coffin Butte, one thing that they didn't want is water in any of the waste. And these piles were out in the open, gathering rainwater every year. And when we had to start paying for it, naturally, we provide landfill with the waste and it gets billed by tonnage. So the more the water, the more the tonnage, the more the cost. And so it made sense that we needed to think about some way of having a covered area for even these piles and then managing them in a way where we can actually send them on a regular basis. So there were quite a few things that, finally precipitated into making a decision that we need to find a piece of property. Luckily, we had a piece of property which already belonged to the city, which is basically, it was in the urban renewal development at the airport, near the airport, the south corner, at the tail end of the airstrip, as you can see, on the other side. And that piece of property is unique enough, given the fact that you are not allowed to build any tall structures because it's in that flight path, the triangle. And so there was anything much that you could do with it. Besides, it has endangered flowers and endangered species, checker mallow, and so we had to watch for all that. So we had to define a piece of property that would be usable, and it was perfect for what we were thinking about. That low key, simple management, clean structures, show low height. So that's what we decided that would be the perfect site for that. The other thing is it's all about location when it comes to accepting hard waste. As you can see, our wastewater treatment plant is all the way on the other end of Kaiser. And the site that we were choosing is all the way south end of the city. What you're seeing over here is our network of sewer lines. The thicker the pipes, the bigger they are, and they are going basically towards the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
So the farther you are away from the treatment plant helps you so that you don't have a slug load, which is basically you don't want to shock the plant with anything that comes in. No matter what, whether it's something which you accept and it's just fine, or whether it's basically sometimes you have a hot load, and then what do? Before you can go and complain about that to whoever, you don't want to destroy the plant in the process. Now, luckily, our plant is big enough that we are not as susceptible like the smaller plants in some of the other parts within Oregon. So we are in a sweet spot, but at the same time, it's our responsibility to choose a location which will not impact our treatment plant or the collection system, or make sure that the people who are working on the collection system. So unfortunately, I don't like to say this, but dilution is the way to manage this pollution. So by the time any waste leaves this site and goes to the treatment plant, it takes a long time. It takes a long way around the east side of the city. It goes to the east side interceptor. And more importantly, if you think about it, the maximum we discharge at any given point of time, even if it's a leachate truck, is about 5,000 to 7,000 gallons in 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But the lowest flow that we have at the treatment plant at any given point of time is between 20 to 30 million gallons. So 5,000 to 7,000 in a mix of a 30 million gallon swimming pool is not even a drop in the bucket when you think about it. So the likelihood of anything that can possibly hurt the plant's biological process is minimized, given the fact that it's a big enough size plant, even in summertime. Wintertime, it's even more, much bigger capacity. So, all right.
May I ask a question?
Absolutely.
As long as you are on that slide. As I was looking at the pipes, it seems like you have the sort of the size of the pipes indicated here. That's what you were saying.
Right.
I'm curious as to the one that's going from West Salem, and it must go under the river up there. That doesn't look very wide.
It's not, you're right, but it's a force main. So it means that it's pressurized pipe, so you don't need a big size gravity pipe. You're actually forcing into a nice, strong cast iron pipe, which is underneath the river.
Okay,
And
I was just
so-
wondering if that's.
Yeah, it's
okay.
managed in a way which basically, unfortunately, on GIS, it looks different. They're shown in black. There are some certain force mains which we use around the city. One of them is also the one going from that circle all the way to the east side interceptor, which is from the airport to the east side interceptor. That's another force main.
Okay,
So it goes really fast on this side. We divert everything from the south towards the east so that it doesn't have to go through the center of this city.
I was just looking at it as a potential risk, but because with the pressure, it's not. So thank
Right.
you.
So, we decided now it's time to build. So the design consultant that was decided was CH2M Hill. We chose a local contractor for building it, Core Inc. And then in November 2015, we started construction, and was done by February 2017. Final cost for the bid was $8.3 million. So it does creep up. We started, I think, somewhere in the 5 to 6 million range, and then things got added, and before you know it, this is what was required to actually have a fairly working facility. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. Ribbon cutting took place May 2017 on 31st. It was a low-key event. You will not find this in any newspaper. It's when we all looked a little different. Mark also mentioned that we look a little bit with more hair, with less stomach fat. So interestingly, I think COVID did a number on all of us. So, anyway, as you enter the facility, it's the location of the facility at 3111 Airway Drive. It's a standard, city sign as you can see as you enter the facility. You are met with a nice big broad entrance, which allows you to either sweep to the left or go straight. So I'm going to cover a few of the structures over here. Now you're actually looking from the other end of the facility. So please remember the area I was showing you entrance is on the far end. We're going to talk about the drying building. We're going to talk about the decant building, wheel wash, as well as the septic side of the operations. So, like I said, there are two areas, two main sites to the whole site. One is which goes to the septic and leachate disposal area. The other one is which goes to the street sweeping and the vac truck waste disposal area. Those are the main two areas. We're going to start with the one which is controlled for city staff. The one with the on the city side of things are where basically street sweepers and vac trucks come in and dispose of. Nobody else other than the city personnel are allowed there. Or maybe it might be a city authorized contractor who's hauling stuff out of there for the street sweeping waste. But that's not the side which basically anybody else needs to go unless you have a permit, which is the other side, and we'll talk about that. As you remember, I told you that we needed a big area which was covered for keeping the street waste, and we needed some place where basically all the vac trucks could also empty their waste. We're going to talk about both the sides. On the left are the big bays for vac trucks, and on the right is your street sweeping waste. So what that means, the vac truck bays, there are 7 bays that we have. Each of them individually actually are isolated. So if there is anything that is put into that waste, we can shut everything off and can be contained in that just one area. The whole purpose behind that is when a vac truck is nothing but a big vacuum machine on a truck. And so when there's any kind of repair operations of sewer, water, any of the pipes repair that has to be done, once a pit is dug, somebody needs to empty out all that water. We use the vac truck and it can suck out anything and everything in that pit. So it can be sewage. Now luckily we can afford more trucks, vac trucks. So sewage truck doesn't mix with the water truck crew, or water truck can work with the storm, but they don't like it. So we luckily have enough apparatus to go ahead and do those things individually. But the important thing is that you do not want that all that soil and water going into the sanitary sewer. Mm-hmm. So how do you separate that out? And that's what happens over here. In the bay, things are offloaded in the back, and then the water goes into the sewer, and the solids can be left to dry out for a little bit. And each of the utilities are given separate bays, so that way they can don't have to mix anything. And then we have a site operator who regularly cleans the dried soil and puts that in the other pile on the across. So that helps with trying to make sure that we manage that. Now, what you're seeing on the right, it's not typical. This is a huge pile, and this is not what you see typically, this amount of street sweepings. We are in between contracts, and so that's why things have piled up a little more. It's usually lesser than that.
Is that a current photo then?
It is current photo. It's literally in the last 2 days.
I just know that some of them were older and that's why I asked.
Right, and some of them were brand new when the facility was clean.
Right. So you mentioned that between contracts, so then somebody comes and takes this away, is that what you're gonna get to?
That's right. So basically, we have a private contractor who, they go through the RFP process and then they get the contract and they haul that waste to Coffin View.
I had a quick question, because you said it dries. Is there also a drainage type system there?
Absolutely. All the water goes through the drainage to individual manholes. You can clean out the individual manhole locations, and then it eventually goes to a big oil water separator, where basically if there's any contamination, anything, there are baffles that allow all the solids to further settle, and any oil contained also stops right there before it gets to the sewer.
Oh,
So it's a very well managed site.
okay.
So altogether, here are the numbers. Basically since 2017 to the present date, literally, about 18,500 tons of debris has been hauled and disposed to Coffin View. That is, I'm talking about the street sweeping waste and any vac waste that's put in there, or like we talked about after leaf haul is done, any grit, any of that, all gets piled up over there. Waste was hauled by contract for $173,439 altogether since 2017, and so basically we also are required by the landfill to apply for a permit. They verify that the chemistry is okay for the landfill to accept. Once that's approved, we dispose of for whatever the charges are. And we have paid about $730,000 to so far to send that waste to the landfill. So total cost of disposal of solid waste from this site since its inception is about $1 million.
Since
So-
2017.
Since 2017, since the opening of this site. So, since we are just talking about this particular site as to how much is the cost, you'll understand later on why I'm doing that specifically from 17 till now. Just to let you know. What else is stored on the site? We store, when the facility started, Parks was us. So basically, we partnered and gave area for Parks to put their waste in the twigs, and they now have even a compactor there, so all the garbage that they collect from the parks can be compacted right there. And then so it reduces the amount that gets sent to the landfill too. So there are some always partnerships that city is always looking at. So even though it's called the Public Works Waste Processing Facility, I said right in the beginning, it's a city waste processing facility. So there are some old panels from our old YMCA sitting over there.
That's the Beast Mosaic.
Right. They're supposed to be there for a year or so. They're still 5 years and counting, they're still there. But we don't care. We're taking good care of it.
That's
Lots
right.
of abandoned carts, that's become a problem, unfortunately. We're dealing with that through.
Where do they come from?
From the grocery parking lot, they end up in streams, right of ways, homeless camps.
Everywhere.
Everywhere you can think about. We find them everywhere, and then staff has routinely been pulling them out of streams, picking them from the right of ways or homeless camps and bringing them over. They're dirty, they're horrible. They have to then be kept in a way where basically you have to segregate them by different types. You have to assign them by months, so that when they were picked, because you have to maintain them for a period of time under our ordinance. And then we have with the grocers, a company which comes and then selectively picks what they like. And then we are left with what we are left, and that goes into the metal recycling. So there's a big, long, huge process that we are involved in right now. So anyway, we also, from all the road work and all the other things that we do, we end up getting concrete, broken up concrete, asphalt, dirt. It has to go somewhere. It used to go in the shops complex over here. We didn't want to make the shops complex any more messy as we started doing the new shop complex. So we wanted to make sure that we had a proper designated areas, and that's what we built the bins for. Now, as you can see, we still need to do even better job of managing even the bins. It's a working site is always messy. So native plant nursery, as you can imagine, we do a lots of riparian planting and any kind of storm water, along the banks or any kind of areas that we are trying to fix up. And we quickly realized that we pay a lot to the nursery folks. So why not make our own? Something which lasts. We know where the those plants came from, and if we can propagate and use those, then we are saving the city money. We have a land. We have people knowledgeable who can do this. So we started doing our own nursery. So we have our own plant nursery for all the stormwater riparian planting.
Do you have space to do maybe some trees too?
Parks does bring a lot of things, but I think that site of that, you would need a lot bigger site than that. I don't think. Yeah, if you had to go.
To
through
get
a full
trees
tree-
started,
tree-
because I know we've had some challenges with getting more climate adapted trees in this area.
Yeah, no, I think
Okay,
If
I was
you go
just
out there,
curious.
you'll see
right?
park stores,
lots of things.
probably 2 or 3 or 4 dozen trees waiting to be planted. So it's kind of a staging area for them.
Okay, okay.
Since I have you as captive audience, did I mention
So
shopping carts abandoned?
Most of those shopping carts are identified as to who they originally belonged to, right? So do we go back to any of those retailers to?
Right, we are trying a different process at the present time, Mark.
Yeah, the challenge is, it might say Safeway, but it doesn't say which Safeway. And so you can call up all 6 Safeways and they'll say, well, not my part. And so there is,
Aren't those corporate stores?
but their managers buy their own carts.
So we are trying to.
Yeah, I mean,
change.
so we have 2 entities who collect carts that are in the best condition and take them back to the stores. But that's only taking care of maybe half the load. And so the other half of the carts stay around for about 30 days, it's long to keep them. And then we take them to Cherry City Metals and we get pennies on the dollar for what the stores paid for them.
Yeah,
So
each
your
cart is
average
about
cart-
$500.
The average cart is about $300 to $400. And I think we're averaging, I think we're destroying about $30,000 worth of carts every couple months. It's wasteful, it's stupid, but that's the challenge we have, so,
Stores, if you call them, if let's say you identify a cart and you call the store that's closest by, they said, oh, that's okay, we don't need it. They don't wanna come and get it.
The amount of labor it takes to clean a cart and sanitize it after we've been storing it for 30 days, depending on where we pulled it out of, it's just not worth their money. They can buy a brand new one for $300 to pay a clerk to sanitize it and clean it and repair it and all that. So some of it's economics and some of it's just, the challenge that we face with, a lot of it is driven by homelessness and that's part of the problem, so.
But we are using valuable real estate and we are using our public funds to go and pick them up. And then again, worry about disposing and keeping and tracking. So something is coming to use shortly. We are trying to work on something different, so.
Can't wait.
All right, so let's go, so all this time I was telling you, we were losing money. All this time, the side that we were talking about, we were picking stuff for the public and then we were sending it to the landfill and paying the landfill. Now it's our turn to make money. So here's the side of the operation, which basically brings in revenue. So now we are looking at the other side of the facility, which is where accessible only by permit. So we are going to talk about this. As you can see, it's a single loop, one way in, one way out facility. The whole facility is stormwater net zero. So that's what you're seeing in between. There are rain gardens, planters, there are bioswales everywhere around the facility. There is no stormwater that leaves this site. Everything is, treated and then infiltrated into the ground from this side. So it's a very well designed from that point of view to make sure that nothing goes out.
Is that Airport Way or is that another?
Yes.
Airway Drive.
Airway Drive.
Airway Drive.
And that's not one that people have to have a key to get in the gate, or is that an entry that they don't require? It's not.
They punch in a code. and
They
it lets
punch in
them
a code, okay.
So that's, now we're gonna talk about the ones, basically who comes in this side of the facility. You need to have a permit. You need to be able to be pre-authorized. They are all registered with us. Their tankers are registered with DEQ. Everything is checked. So when they're bringing waste, they're bringing with their manifest, where they picked up the waste from, everything. They can come in both the sides of the building. They can go in either of the side of the building, and then they can start disposing of their waste. They start by punching in their number. They have a card. They have an actual individual ID. They can enter that into a system. It's called Portalogic by Element. And they basically put all the information in. City provides the hoses, different hoses, because of the style or the size, depending on each one of them. We didn't want to have them worry about, I didn't have the right coupling, or it was broken, and so there was a big splash out there. So we provide the hoses. They connect the hose, as you can see in the second photo over here. Once the hose is connected and it's powered up and it's pressurized, now they are asked to keep it within certain pressure, and they can push their waste into the system. It is by pressure that they are required to push. It's not a gravity system. And then if there is any reason that we want to collect a sample, we can collect a sample, which is right there, the box that you see next to the tube. It collects a sample of the waste that's going through. Now, what's going on the other side of the wall? Basically, let's look under the hood. We have a big machine on the other side. It's called Huber Rofas. It's a German-made trommel system. It's got a big drum inside, kind of like your dryer drum. And basically all it does is, as the water comes through, it allows the solids to go through to the point where basically they start getting compacted, and they come out through that funnel that you see at the left bottom. And it's like a piece of logs coming out into the container, while the liquid goes through. But we don't allow anything unless it's checked. So that's what is on your right photo. The pH is checked right away, so that to make sure. By the way, Ryan, I'm running overtime.
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Because I think
Very interesting.
the reason for checking the pH is that's a very easy measure to make sure that if there is anything that is going to impact our system, that's the first thing. And if there is anything wrong with the pH, the city only accepts between 6.5 to 10 as a pH. The purpose is so that it does not impact any of our infrastructure or create any noxious gases, any kind of issues. pH is a perfect classic way of first knowing if there's a problem. So if the pH is off, what happens is the system shuts down. And the system shuts down, and you have a pressurized hose which is stuck to our system. You cannot leave, you cannot do anything, you cannot walk away. You only can basically call for help. That's available right there in the earlier picture. There's a remote button that you can basically press. You can call right over here is an intercom. You get to call a dispatch. Public Works Dispatch will call Environmental Services, and someone will show up, and you are now caught, given the fact that you just were trying to offload a hot load. And
So what would be in that hot load that would trigger that?
it could be an acid, it could be a lye. So, any of the two sides, when it's too low pH, it could be an acidic something that they were trying to dispose of. It could be a base, very high base. Both of them are bad for the sewer system. They eat into the concrete, they create gases that can be toxic. We care for the people who are going to service the lines. It can even, things have caused, in the past, have caused explosions in the sewer, taken down entire streets and entire, blocks in various different parts of the world. So it's not something that you take lightly. So we want to make sure There's nothing that's going into the sewer which will cause those kind of problems.
Would there be anything like, so because I assume those are from septic systems, so it would be one of the septic companies that.
Right.
So would there ever be something natural that they wouldn't know that it's in that hot load, or is it something that is intentional?
Well, if it's intentional, they should pay for it. They
Right.
should, but if it's unintentional, that's where I told you that our system is big enough that it's not easy to go ahead and destroy it. But at the same time, if it's unintentional, we will investigate to find out what was going on, where did it come from. That's why the manifest, every load that they have picked up in that collection in the tank, we know exactly where it came from.
I find that fascinating.
So here we are, statistic again, numbers. We have close to 32,000 individual trips so far on the facility by all our septic haulers. Based on manifest, I can tell you that we serve a 30 to 40 mile radius from where we are, which means that basically Salem is providing sewage services to all the neighboring smaller communities, all the houses in the counties. So if you think about it, you are not just serving city of Salem, you're serving a whole bunch more people in this region.
So how many hot loads are there, like per year, or?
Rarely,
You got the hot load.
I'm really curious.
rarely, because the fact is, all of our haulers are very well educated, given the fact they know what the penalty would be.
Mhm.
So we start them out with a lot more detailed, look, this site, everything is watched. There is enough surveillance cameras, there's enough, checking. If something is wrong, a sample will get picked up, you will be fined, you will be charged, you will be out of here. You'll never be back here.
Too bad we can't do that with shopping carts, huh?
This is a lot more stringent program that we monitor, because this is a permitted program that we get checked on by DEQ. So we don't wanna go ahead and.
If DEQ started regulating shopping carts, it would be different.
So as you can see, there is a lot of water that we have, received from septic haulers, almost 50 million gallons. And when you collectively put them as one industry, they're one of the largest industry in town. $6 million revenue since 2017. Every year, that's the largest industry. Hauled waste is our largest industry. So if you think about it, they are a client that we need to serve accordingly, just like how you would serve any other business.
Sort of like your opening comment.
So here we go. Let's talk about leachate. So leachate, as you learned when you went visited the landfill, is a contaminated liquid that comes through as water filters through the layers of solid waste, and then it's eventually dissolving all the stuff within the landfill, what's coming through, and then it gets gathered through pipes and then is pumped into a containment area, and then is eventually brought to to the cities which have wastewater treatment processes. Now, I have been open and upfront about the fact that our wastewater treatment plant does not necessarily treat anything that comes from the contaminants of concern that we are very worried about, PFAS, because of the fact that it's a biological process. It does take care of a lot of other things which come through leachate, metals and other things, organics, but PFAS is not one of those that we basically necessarily gets treated. But we'll talk a little more about what happens. So there are three haulers or three landfills that we service for that bring waste to the city. One is Valley Landfills, which is Coffin Butte. The other one is River Bend Landfill, which is in McMinnville, and third one is LRI Landfill, which is in Washington. The trucks are about it's long ways.
Yeah, that's quite a ways.
The trucks are about 5,000 to 7,000 gallons each. As you can see, they're long trucks that come in. We made it possible for them to go ahead and empty the whole batch in a gravity fashion, so they don't have to push any of their load out, because this is not leachate is not one of those wastes where you have to screen for rags and solids and stuff. But we still have a small little grade that basically the water goes through. So it's not like it's not pre-screened for big solids if they come through the leachate truck. But typically it's landfill juice, like I mentioned. So it's all liquid. It's just a large quantity. That's it.
What does the pH of leachate run generally? I would assume it'd be more alkaline, but I don't know.
What I've heard just off the top of my head is like somewhere between like 5 and 7, I believe.
Yeah, it would be a little bit on the acidic side.
Okay.
It wouldn't be on the basic side. It would
Okay.
be a little less, but they still have to make sure if it's less than 6.5, you wouldn't be able to accept it. That's our local limit.
Okay, so it applies to the leachate as
Yeah.
well.
Now,
Okay.
there are, our limits are flexible. We have instantaneous limit and we have more, what you would consider that, okay, over a period of time. So there is, EPA has given that flexibility. That is it just one time that you saw a blip, or is it a continuous time for a longer period of time? So you can make that call based on that. Is it just a one time, or is it just continuously you're only getting high pH?
And I also believe it depends on the time of year. I mean, in the wintertime when it's raining a lot, the leachate is basically, diluted, because there's so much rain going through.
More closer to neutral.
Yeah. So
Why would we take leachate from almost 200 miles away?
Good question. That's apparently an economic, still workable solution for them, given the fact that they have maxed out not only their own county waste capacity, they have also maxed out where they go to in Portland. And so we are the third option. That's how much water gets generated sometimes from leachate. And this was because the landfill operator or the truck operator that was operating and bringing waste from, I think, Coffin Butte itself, was the one who said like, oh, well, there is another partner who would love to bring their waste. Is that something that you would be willing to accept? At that point of time, there was no PFAS question. More importantly, we have come to learn and been educated that no matter what, if you have a community wastewater system, you are required to accept waste as long as it is within permissible regulatory parameters.
So are we required to take it from someone 200 miles away?
There is an interstate commerce law, which basically restricts you from trying to stop interstate commerce. So if if there are no regulations which are stopping it, you have a process and you're accepting something from someone similar, insane. There is no reason why you should not be allowed to accept.
So we'd have
from
to
someone.
stop accepting anything
Or raise the rate.
Right, well, there are,
or raise
So-
it, okay.
Yeah.
and I think that applies to the landfill too, because that's what they are facing too. Anyway, coming to Valley landfills, Coffin Butte, that's our community landfill, you heard already, our waste goes there. And so, and that's, they bring 15 to 17 million gallons to us every year. Riverbend landfill brings us, they had stopped in between, they were going to Hillsborough, and they again started coming back. They're bringing about 9 million gallons at the most a year. LRI is bringing another 9 million gallons. They are again off and on, it depends. Sometimes they don't need us as much and sometimes they need us.
So do we have a contract with them or is it they
They're all by
can
permit.
come whenever they want?
So basically, the facility is open 24/7. And it's by card access, it's by, they're checked, their gallons are recorded. We don't have a problem when they come. As long as they meet the permit requirements, they're doing their job of disposing properly, cleaning up after themselves. So that's where we stand today. Total trips made from by leachate haulers to the facility, about 11,500, 5 to 7,000 gallon trucks. If you can imagine, about 150 million gallons disposed, and the revenue that has generated from there is about 4.5 billion. So it's all finally, what does it come down to? Total amount of waste hauled, septic and leachate together is about 200 million gallons so far to this facility. Revenue that we have generated from that since 2017 is about $10.5 million. And then when you add all the expenditures together, 8.32 billion, 1,360,000, or to go ahead and all the maintenance and labor, the person who manages the site, all the costs that we have incurred because of hauling all the waste away to Coffin Butte, everything put together is 1.3 million. And then I assume that in the bigger scheme of things, I do not know the exact number, so I have assumed 1 cent a gallon, and it's not too off to treat the waste at our wastewater treatment plant, because like I said, so much amount of waste, this is just nothing compared to that. And so that comes to about about $2 million. So when you add all that up, expenditures is about 11.5 million. So we are about $1 million off from breaking even. If you think about your home, and it takes 30 years to break even, go in the black, we are going to be doing it in 8. At the end of the day, who maintains all this? We have one on-site operator, like I was telling you, who does an oversight. Overall maintenance is his job to make sure people keep the site clean. He's the one who is provided with that big new, brand new loader, which you see on the very top. Mark was very proud to have provided that a brand new equipment. We wanted to make sure we started the site right. You can see that we also made sure that the operator had a small little office shop place to do his regular work, take a break, be able to sit down and have lunch, as opposed to the initial thought was, they would run back and forth from the shops. They could come to the shops to have lunch and then go back. That was not a good idea. So this was a little bit after the thought, but we wanted to provide a place. And then to keep the facility clean, we always make sure that everyone who comes to the facility always cleans, and leaves behind. They wash their tires as they go through the wash area, wheel wash, so that they don't have a mess leaving the city on the city streets. The whole facility is green stormwater infrastructure managed, and so zero discharge goes into the storm sewer from here. And like I said, we monitor this 24/7. We have recordings of everything. There's nothing that can escape. If we need to go back and look at who did what, we have it all. So, and then oversight is always provided by supervisors, managers, or program elements. The environmental side of things are managed, and regulatory side is managed by me. Dwayne Barnes, who is my counterpart for the utility side, manages all the rest. Mark provides the overall management of the site. And then we have DEQ and audits and inspections that we have to be answerable to. So it's checked thoroughly all the time.
And I'm curious, if you have many violations and people not cleaning up, or the ones that dump, is that something that's not very common, or does it happen and you have to adjust for it?
Most of the time people do realize, because we have provided tools for them to go ahead and keep the site clean. There is enough water, pressure hoses, provided with easy accessible brooms, bins, everything that you could possibly think of to make their life easier, thereby not having them to reason to leave waste behind. And then in spite of that, stuff happens, so they can press that button and call for more help. And it's okay. We understand if it's really a 1 or chance that something spilled and it's going into the rain garden, and we need to call quickly someone out so that it doesn't damage the rain garden. And then again, this is all biology. Rain gardens are good at handling some of that.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's
Deanna,
all.
do you have any
I
other
have.
questions?
No, I was
Asking.
Wow.
I hope, I'm sorry it went longer than, but the questions that went on through.
Perfect. This is good.
Mhm.
All right, well, it
Very
sounds
helpful.
like that is, thank you for that presentation, Tim.
right,
I think that I certainly learned a lot. I kind of want to go visit the site. Yeah, a little tour. You're looking at, I don't want to go visit that site.
I stood around many times when our septic tank was being pumped. I don't, it doesn't smell good.
Oh, well,
But that-
we knew that used to smell before, right?
Yeah.
So we took extra precautions in the design and construction of this site. There are carbon filters which you will never even smell anymore.
Oh, wow.
Plus, it's a pressure system, so.
Right.
Right, everything is
Evacuates,
closed,
evacuates the tank in a sealed tube right into the sewer, so there's not much ambient.
yeah, you won't even know that.
Good.
DEQ offices are just on the other side of the track, so literally.
So we moved until next month, the medical waste that Brian had intended to bring forward. So we're over to C, the solid waste policy, I believe,
Yes.
next.
So just real quick, make sure I am. There we go. Making sure I'm following the agenda, I'm not skipping anything. So the next item, right after the questions page in the agenda, just again, real quick, kind of the solid waste committee work plan for the rest of 2024. See, we're in July right now, learned about the public works waste processing facility. We have most of the rest of today is going to be multifamily properties, kind of talking about some very high level recycling organics and maybe some things to come. Kind of kind of a picture of what to expect over the next couple of years, actually. Next month, be talking about medical waste, and then you'll see rehab is on there. I'm going to briefly talk about that at the end of today, but there's some interesting things coming up for Polk County, so a proposal there. So I'm going to.
Ryan, October 17th, aren't we gone? Maybe Oregon Cities.
Oh, yeah, we are. That is correct. I think, so are you going?
Yeah.
Are you going to the Bend conference, Nikki?
No.
Okay, so myself and Deanna will be gone October 17th, so we probably need to find another.
Okay, thank you for the heads up.
Yes. and-
I'll look at
I
rescheduling that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track.
No,
No, that's good.
That's
because
what we do.
I might have remembered on the 15th.
Okay, so I'm gonna move into kind of that solid waste policy discussion briefly. I'm gonna pull up the own presentation here. And sorry, there we go. Get back to the beginning. So we've seen this graphic before. Last month, we talked about CPI inflation and some of that kind of stuff. So the rest of today's conversation, not really under the policy discussion umbrella, but wanted to talk about kind of the larger discussion of multifamily on the organics and recycling side of things. So I wanted to, starting with the recycling side of things, there's some history around this. In 2015, Senate Bill 263 was passed, which expanded the Opportunity to Recycle Act to specifically include tenants in the recycling program. So it changed the definition of I think it was customer or I'll have to go back and look at that again, but it moved the opportunity to recycle definition from customer, so in multifamily, usually the customer is the landlord. That's the one, or the property owner, the manager, they're the ones that's paying the garbage bill. And so the actual tenants, there's a disconnect there and from an opportunity for them to recycle. And so in 2015, that changed to move it so that that opportunity should be extended to actual tenants and not just the property owner, the property manager. 2018, as a result of that Senate Bill 263, DEQ published a report called The State of Multi-Tenant Recycling in Oregon, which I have a copy of here. And at the bottom, you see a link there. Is a link to that report. It's about 35 pages or so. It's however, is a summary of 12 other studies that we can get into that a little bit more, but that they reached out to all the stakeholders, tenants, property owners, solid waste providers, local government, counties and cities. Is a multi-year effort to, as states here, a collaborative planning and outreach effort to implement that expanded multi-tenant recycling. So that has been, it's a great resource that then what we see with the Senate Bill 582 and some of the things after that, that what we call the RMA or Recycling Modernization Act, have leveraged the work that DEQ finished in 2018. And so most of what I want to do today is kind of talk about at a high level some of those issues that report bring out, and then possibly where some opportunities are. Now, as you see at first, in 2015, those things were supposed to be effective July 1st of 2022. Well, that hasn't happened. With the RMA Recycling Modernization Act, the requirements there are supposed to be implemented by July 1st of 2026. As you'll see, it's going to be a heavy lift if we're going to make that date. With the rulemaking that DEQ is going through right now, they're in the second of the two rulemaking sessions for the RMA. There's a proposal to extend that out to, rather than having implementation by July 1st of 2026, local governments will be required to submit a plan for implementation by November 1st of 2027, with implementation beginning no later than January 1st of 2030. So that's extended that time out to give us some time. Hopefully it doesn't take that long, but I think, as you'll see with the issues around it, it might take that long, but hopefully not. So the RMA, so whether it's July 1st of 26 or we've got till 2030, kind of the big picture responsibilities that we as local governments have are, and I've kind of underlined the main points there. We need to provide space for collection. There needs to be adequate space and access for the collection vehicles. We need to provide adequate service and service volume and or collection frequency. So, is there enough that they can be, are the containers appropriately sized, and are they being collected at a frequency that is appropriate? And are they accessible? Including for children and those that maybe have handicap issues, or that are they ADA accessible? And of course, then there's a reporting element to all this. So there's a number of that's at a high level, the responsibility that we'll have for multifamily recycling. Yes.
Sorry.
Interrupt anytime.
So with that said, that would tell me that we're going to have to work with planning.
Yes.
On designs, and since we're like at the stage of redeveloping the housing plans, and so should we be making sure they are aware of this, or are they aware of it?
Lisa Anderson, OB has, yes.
Perfect.
Yes, we
Okay.
started those conversations.
Perfect, that's
So-
what I needed to know.
And as soon as the rulemaking is completed, then we'll continue those conversations so we can get a head start.
Great, thank you very much.
And it seems to me that, all of the providers, the haulers, whatever, should have input into that early planning process so that they can evaluate those plans, and that's something we could do sooner. I would certainly think
My-
to make sure.
My guess is that that information would be provided so that then when they're looking at the plans, but that is a good point, that the haulers would need to have input on what space they need.
Well, and that's great for new construction, but how's that, how
Gonna
are
be, yes.
existing
Sure,
buildings going?
I agree, that's gonna be the more difficult challenge, but the sooner we can
So
get
how
something
is
done
that
for
gonna
new.
play into all of this?
So this will play in particularly for new construction or when there's major remodels.
Right.
For the existing multifamily, these requirements won't apply until there is some major remodel or substantial change to the development. And so, but that doesn't mean to say that there aren't other things that we can do within the existing infrastructure to at least help or improve the opportunity to recycle. Again, it's not guaranteeing that recycling will happen and that it's going to be perfect, but we can improve and make things a little bit better to have the opportunity for folks to recycle, even if it's maybe not the perfect situation, but maybe here's a plan B or an alternate method that's available.
Ryan, can I add too? So as an industry, the collection companies are working through ORA, the Oregon Refuse and Recycling Association. Right now, we are laser focused on RMA as it pertains to a year from now and getting ready for that and these ORSOP surveys that are out that Ryan's been working on. But we will continue to follow along on the multifamily piece and comment. We go through the rulemaking, we comment where we see that to be necessary. And so we'll be on top of it from an industry standard and then ready to move down and talk to the cities and counties about how they want to implement at that point too. So we're staying on top. And it's not just Republic Services, it's really all of the hauling companies in the state. It's hard to stay on top of it.
Thank you, Jill, I appreciate that added information.
So I have to say that going through that report, kind of reading what DEQ put together in 2018, I learned a lot, just personally. I think there was some personal growth that occurred. I think I've been guilty of simply saying, oh, well, from a multifamily perspective, they're not the ones paying the bill, they don't care, they're just gonna throw it away. There's that separation of paying the bill and the contamination and kind of the results of that behavior. I don't think, after reading this, I'm realizing that it's much more complex than that. There's three basic areas that the report talks about. There's recycling behavior, there's the recycling collection system, and then there's policy. And so I'm just gonna kind of go a very high level of each of these. Again, not going deep, but kind of looking at each one of these highlight a potential for why recycling isn't occurring in multifamily, and each of these are some opportunities of where we can improve. So first of all is just getting tenant participation. And so I read through this last night, I'm trying to remember some of the details, I apologize, it's been a lot. But reaching out and doing what we can to include tenants in conversation with that. The role of children, it was interesting reading it in a lot of the surveys of tenants is the kids that are actually taking the trash out. And so how do we make it accessible and easy for them? That gets into some of the things down below in terms of education and outreach. Pictures that make it easy of what goes where. The convenience of recycling, there's a statement in there that says that convenience is more important than environmental consciousness. And so we can have all the best intent, but if it's not convenient, If it's not easy, it ain't gonna happen. Okay, there's a friend of mine that I have lunch, or not lunch, but I have breakfast with him most Wednesday mornings. He lives in a multi-family apartment, he's in a complex, 3 kids. He says, you know, they have one compactor in the whole unit, and it's about 150 feet away. He's lucky if there's trash out there every day. Sometimes it goes out front, it's sitting there for 3 days, and he's just guilty that they finally actually, okay, I gotta take my trash out. Let alone separating recycling and this and that and taking it to different, he has a hard enough time getting his trash there. So I think that one example speaks to that convenience. Getting information to the tenants, again, this kind of talks about that separation of who is the customer. Who's, are we giving information to the apartment manager? Are we doing it at that level, or are we actually getting down to the tenant level where maybe we're doing something face to face? Are we educating the apartment manager and helping them educate the tenants? You also have tenants that are turning over. They might stay there a couple of months, they might stay there, multiple years, but they don't tend to be long-term residents there. The signage and the visual cues, so having them in multiple languages, so making it accessible. These are all, as DDQ is going through this, finding where there's some areas of opportunity. And then how do we reinforce those that, where is some good behavior, or maybe some incentives, that type of thing. Again, that can be difficult though, when those paying the bill and those that are producing the waste and doing the recycling, in this case, are recycling appropriately, there's a disconnect. And so how do we provide that incentive? But then on the other side of that, managing contamination. And then you have the issue of non-tenant use. You have this dumpster out in the middle that, it's kind of for everyone to use. Someone pulls up in the middle of the night with a mattress in the back, and they, so there's some issues, and this is just on the behavior side of things. This wasn't even a full list. Next is the collection system itself. One thing that I didn't really think about, my initial impression was we're talking multifamily residential, but we also have commercial tenants that have rental commercial property, and then we have mixed use. And we may have residential and commercial in the same building. And how are those addressed and managed? Single stream versus dual stream. So that concept's right now, most of our recycling, the commingled recycling, is a single stream. Single stream means all the recycling goes in one bin and it's sorted later. Dual stream is the terminology for at the source, those recycling the recycling material is separated, and so you see that primarily with cardboard, where cardboard tends to be a dual stream where that's separated early and then collected separately from the rest of it, but on our curbside, and so possibly in a so there could be some implications or some opportunities for considering whether we have a single or dual stream recycling collection in multifamily and the benefits there. On-site management. Again, this kind of goes back to where you have your apartment manager, landlord, that type of thing. Are they actively involved in helping to manage the site? Usually it's for single family residents, the homeowner, they take personal responsibility for that. In a tenant situation, that needs to be assigned and someone needs to take on that responsibility. In unit space, this is something that was kind of one of those light bulbs for me. It's like, is there a designated place? Is it, again, this goes back to that convenience. Is it convenient for that tenant to actually collect that separate from the rest of the trash inside their unit? It may not be, especially in some, depending on how the unit is designed. I'm going to kind of, in the interest in time, kind of just breeze through the rest of these. Collection area design, driver safety, and then we get into, of course, the rates and fees. The bulky waste is kind of a big thing, especially as the tenants are moving in and out. they're moving and that broken bed that, or the mattress or the couch or the whatever, where does that go? How is it disposed of? And who's responsible for disposing? From a policy perspective, what are the goals and how do we measure them? Is at a local government level, do we have the program, staff to manage that program? Are we going to mandate things? Jim mentioned mandating food waste in, was it Corvallis area? Food waste collection. Are we going to, as a local government, going to mandate certain elements? That goes into codes, could be impact our franchises with the haulers. And you can see kind of the list of the rest of the things there. So I've learned a lot in realizing that there's a much more complexity around the multi-family recycling collection, much more so than a single family. The good news is a lot of work has already been done in this area. And so I want to work, obviously, Julie mentioned Aura and others that will be continuing that good work. So in the 5 minutes we have left, obviously not going to solve all the world's problems today, but wanted to give you a little bit of a 50,000-foot view of some of those things, and there's some good suggestions of what we can do to help improve. And so over the next year or two, you'll be seeing a plan to bring to this group, what does that plan look like? And we can work through some of those things. We talked about recycling, multifamily and organics. I would imagine that many of those same concerns or hurdles that we have with recycling are going to apply to the collection of organics. Now, when we're talking a multifamily situation, a tenant situation, most cases that's going to be kitchen food waste, right? Not very many of them are going to be mowing the lawn or cutting the trees, or you're not going to have yard waste. And so we're talking about food waste, which tends to be more what's the moist? Protrusible?
Yeah.
What's the word? Juicy. That's the word of the day. Juicy.
Look at juice again.
And so we, in our own climate action plan, element M17, the statement is, as a city, we want to implement a convenient citywide composting program for residents, including both multi and single family resident properties, identifying existing multifamily food waste collection programs that are working and expand existing programs to service multifamily residents. So I believe on the single family side of things, we have a very robust system. Our existing curbside mixed organics program is great. And I think there may be some ways that we can leverage that to help on the multifamily side of things.
Good.
I met with Juliana here a couple of weeks ago. And I think there's a really cool opportunity. She has some experience in with and like to over the next 6 months or so work on developing a plan. We're a little late in the game for this year, but there's a USDA composting and food waste reduction grant opportunity. So there's one for 2024. We would have to have that all submitted by early September of 2024. I don't think we're going to make that date. So our plan is to work towards the next year, which would be September of 2025. The grant range is between $75,000 and $400,000 with a $25,000 or 25% match, and it does provide some multi-year funding for a pilot program. Something that would be really interesting is looking at a program, and again, Juliana has some experience with this in other communities that she's been in, of a food waste collection program that people sign up and buy. It's a voluntary program that they sign into. In other words, there's some education that they go through. They pay a little bit of money to get a bucket, and then they actually take that and they become responsible for taking that waste. And so this is something that Lori may be interested in at some point, where if you're collecting your own waste and there's a designated place and multiple places around town that you can take that to. And so whether it be at the local fire station or where it be a community garden, but there's something that is set up for that collection. And then partnering, hopefully then with the local hauler, that is then added to their route for collection of that mixed organics. So, but that's just one example. There are, I'm sure, other examples of programs that either similar or that could work. And so continuing to look at opportunities and what some of those solutions may be for multifamily on the organic side.
That is, there's gonna be a very big industry of people going around cleaning the juicy stuff from the bins.
Real quick, very, very brief, Recycling Modernization Act. The one update I have on there, Julie mentioned it, the ORSOP questionnaire. That was due previously on June 28th. We were given another 4 weeks to July 26th, which is next week on Friday. And so I'm actively working with all of our haulers, with Marion County and the MRF to get that completed and sent in, so that will get done. Again, the elements of that were basically where do we as a community need help in on-route collections, depot collections, reload facilities, and then transportation reimbursements and things there. And so this our communication back to them were detailed of what are the needs to meet the RMA requirements. And then finally, the city manager, Josh, and myself met with management from Polk County as the community development director, and there's the county administrator a couple of weeks ago, and folks from Apple Tree Holdings. They happen to own Lawrence Sanitation, so that's one of their, so we're partners with them in that area as well. They have proposed to build a transfer station in Rickreall, Oregon. So right now, Polk County does not have a transfer station in the same way that we have, we have Salem Kaiser Transfer Station, we have North Marion. Polk County does not have a transfer station. And so we met with them to learn more about that proposal. There may likely be some impact to rates for West Salem customers, but we are, city staff is currently reviewing that proposal. We'll be working with an outside consultant to better understand it as well. And look forward to our August 15th meeting, a more formal presentation from Polk County and likely Apple Tree Holdings to be here as well to present that proposal to this group.
Okay.
And so come with questions, and you can learn. They got a great website at rehubholdings.com. It would be called the Rehub. So rehubholding.com. They got some mock-up drawings and different stuff, and they've already working on engaging that local community, Polk County, and question and Q&A, that kind of stuff. So I would encourage you to go out to that website, look around, and come with questions.
All right.
Forgetting anything, but I believe
I just see other is the.
nothing else. There was no other. Back to you, Chip.
Thank you. Any questions, Deanna, any comments or anything? This is a lot of information, we're hearing how much solid waste costs. That's why that's why this committee is here, learning all of these things. Do you have any questions, Councilor?
Thank you. The only question I had, how would the rates impact West Salem customers? How would a transfer station potentially impact?
So super quick, really high level. Right now, most of the solid waste from West Salem goes to Coffin Butte.
Mm-hmm.
The general idea is that instead of going directly to Coffin Butte, it would go to the transfer station, reloaded onto larger trucks, and then taken to its final destination, whether that be Coffin Butte or somewhere else, depending on.
Puyallup, Washington.
So, so.
I couldn't help myself.
So it helps in the long-term planning of providing a destination for waste in West Salem.
Okay,
That is,
and so would the county cover the cost from the transfer station to Coffin Butte or wherever then? Since it was a county
so
project?
there would, so instead of paying what we call it the tipping fee or gate fee at Coffin Butte, there would be a tipping fee at the transfer station.
Okay, now I understand.
And so that could be, it will likely be more than what we currently pay at Coffin Butte.
Okay,
But the transportation is gonna be short.
right,
So there's gonna be some offset, but likely more.
okay,
So there's some pros and cons to this proposal as we're looking at it currently. And so those are some things that we're analyzing, working through. And again, we'll have more information next month.
okay.
What choice would we have though?
Are some choices between, yeah, so we'll get to that.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
next
we'll
month.
talk about that. Yep.
All right, well, it sounds like if we don't have any other questions or comments, we can call this meeting adjourned at 1:32. Thank you.